Tomorrowland. In my opinion, one of the most fascinating and honestly my favorite theme park land in the world. And I know it's a bold take in 2026. We're living in a time where theme parks are pushing immersion to levels we've never seen before. Places like Super Nintendo World, Dark Universe, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, Fantasy Springs, even the brand new World of Frozen that just opened at Disney Adventure World. Lands that don't just give you rides, but fully transport you into stories we already know and love. That's the modern standard now. Total immersion. Intellectual property driven worlds you walk in and you're not just in a theme park, you're in a movie, a game, or a universe. But you see, Tomorrowland, it's different, and that's exactly why I love it. When you look at the original Disney parks, Disneyland and Magic Kingdom, you're looking at the blueprint for everything we have today. These parks weren't built around IPs the way modern lands are. Instead, they were built around ideas, themes, and emotions. Adventureland, Frontierland, Fantasyland, and Tomorrowland. These weren't just settings, they were concepts, and Tomorrowland, more than any other land, represents something incredibly unique. But here's the twist, it doesn't really feel like the future anymore, and yet that's kind of the magic. There's something about Tomorrowland that just hits different. It has that retro futuristic aesthetic that can't be found anywhere else. The music, the sounds, the kinetic energy of the land itself. It all creates this atmosphere that feels alive. You hear the hum of machinery, the distant chimes, the movement of rides overhead. You see Space Mountain looming in the background, Tron lighting up the skyline. It's a vibe, and it's a vibe that feels like a time capsule. Now, I know that sounds so contradictory because Tomorrowland is supposed to represent the future, not the past, but that retro-futurism, that optimistic mid-century vision of what the future could be, that's what makes Tomorrowland so special. And it's not trying to predict the future anymore, it's preserving a vision of it. But at the same time, that's also the biggest criticism of the land. Because if Tomorrowland is supposed to be about the future, then why does it feel like it's stuck in the past? This is something Disney fans have been talking about for years. Especially when you look at versions like Disneyland's Tomorrowland, which, let's be honest, is even more outdated. Magic Kingdom's version does a better job overall, but even there's still something missing. It doesn't feel like tomorrow anymore. And because of that, fans have been asking for a full Tomorrowland overhaul for a long time, but here's where things get really interesting. What if I told you that overhaul is already happening, but just very quietly? If you really start to look at the timeline, you can trace this transformation all the way back to 2018. That's when construction began on TRON Lightcycle Run. At the time, it just seemed like a new attraction, another addition to Magic Kingdom's lineup, but in hindsight, this was the beginning of something much bigger. Because once TRON broke ground, it wasn't just about adding a ride, it started to shift the identity of Tomorrowland. Now, of course, COVID happened, and that slowed everything down, not just at Disney, but across the entire theme park industry. Projects got delayed, and long-term plans had to be adjusted. So what was only supposed to take 3 years ended up taking 5, and in 2023, TRON Lightcycle Run finally opened. And that's when things started to click. TRON is visually stunning, it's modern, it feels like something pulled straight out of a futuristic world, and suddenly Tomorrowland had a new anchor attraction that felt like the future again. But this was just the beginning. Since then, we've seen a ton of similar changes happening throughout the land, and on their own. They may not seem like a big deal, but when you put them all together, you start to see a pattern. The entrance to Tomorrowland has been updated. Signage across the land has been refreshed. Even small things like snack stands and soda shops have been renovated to better match the aesthetic. The PeopleMover was down for an extended period of time, and when it came back up, it wasn't just a simple reopening, it had new narration, updated audio, a refreshed overall feel. Same ride, but an enhanced experience. Astro completely torn down and rebuilt. New planets, new ride vehicles, all while maintaining that classic retro look. And then most recently, Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin got a major update. New blasters, new ride vehicles, improved effects, additional scenes. It's essentially a refreshed version of the same ride, but with much more modern enhancements. Now, individually, these updates might seem minor, but collectively, this is actually a full-scale land transformation when you really think about it. And the craziest part is Disney hasn't really called it that or announced that. There's been no big announcement for this Tomorrowland 2.0 reveal we've been craving. No 5-year roadmap presentation like they love to do. It's just happening. And honestly, this might be the smartest thing they could have done. Because when Disney announces massive projects years in advance, expectations go through the roof, and if anything changes or gets cut, as it does often, fans get disappointed. But by doing this slowly over time, Disney is essentially upgrading Tomorrowland without the pressure of a single massive overhaul. Now, I know I haven't talked about the other attractions, but we're not done yet, because there are still some major pieces of the puzzle left. Let's start with Carousel of Progress. This attraction is iconic, and it's one of the last remaining connections to Walt Disney himself. But it is severely outdated, especially that final scene which was supposed to represent the future. When it first debuted, things like voice-activated technology and virtual reality felt cutting edge. Now, we all have Amazon Echoes in our house and Oculus Rifts at home. The future is now the present. So Disney is finally updating it. We're expecting a refreshed final scene and even more exciting, a brand new opening featuring a Walt Disney animatronic similar to the one recently introduced at Disneyland. And if they pull this off right, it could breathe new life into one of the most historically significant attractions in the park. Then there's the Monsters Inc. laugh floor, and this one's been a bit of a question mark. It's been around for a while, and while it's still entertaining, it doesn't feel needed anymore, especially with the new Monsters Inc. land developing at Hollywood Studios. So there's a real possibility that once that land opens, Laugh Floor could be on its way out. And if that happens, this then opens up a space for something brand new. A new show, a new concept, maybe even something more interactive or technologically advanced. The possibilities are wide open. And then we still have one more question mark, and that's Stitch's Great Escape, or more accurately, the empty building where it used to be. The space has been sitting unused for years now, and it's honestly kind of wild that such a large central location in Tomorrowland hasn't been utilized yet. There were rumors about a Wreck-It Ralph attraction replacing it, but those seem to have fizzled out. So now the question is, what does go there? Do they bring in a new IP? Do they create something original? Do they literally just tear it down and build something completely new? Whatever they do, one thing is clear, Tomorrowland does need more capacity. Magic Kingdom is the busiest theme park in the world, and adding another high-capacity attraction here would be huge. And this building alone is so historically significant. There's been 4 different attractions in there, including the scariest attraction Disney's ever made, so it would be really cool to see this building or theater get utilized again. And finally, we get to Space Mountain. Now, this is the crown jewel of Tomorrowland. It's also over 50 years old. Now, don't get me wrong, I love this version of Space Mountain. It has that classic tubular steel track, and there's a charm to it that you just don't get with smoother modern coasters. But from a technical standpoint, it is outdated. It uses the same ride system as the Matterhorn at Disneyland. It's one of the last remaining original versions of this attraction anywhere in the world. Disneyland updated theirs in 2005. Tokyo Disneyland is currently completely rebuilding theirs, which means Walt Disney World's version is the last of its kind. And then that puts Disney in a very interesting position, because at some point they're going to have to make a decision. Do they preserve it as a piece of history, or do they upgrade it to meet modern standards? There have been rumors for years about a Space Mountain refurbishment coming to Walt Disney World, even a full rebuild like we're seeing in Tokyo. It does feel inevitable, because if Disney is truly committing to the slow-phased Tomorrowland transformation like they have been over the past 2 years, Space Mountain has to be the final step. You can't modernize the entire land and leave your most iconic, your headliner attraction untouched. And when that day comes, they have to go all in. This isn't a ride you can half update. It's arguably the most iconic attraction in Magic Kingdom. It defines the skyline of Tomorrowland. It's a cultural landmark. So whatever they do, whether it's a major refurbishment or a complete rebuild, it has to be something special. Because once Space Mountain is updated, that's it. That's the completion of a Tomorrowland transformation. And when you step back and look at the bigger picture, it's kind of incredible. In the span of about a decade, Disney will have completely refreshed an entire land, not through one massive project, but through a series of smaller strategic updates, and most people won't even realize it happened. That's what makes it so fascinating, because we've asked for a Tomorrowland overhaul, and we got one, just not in the way we expected. So yeah, Tomorrowland might not feel like the future in the traditional sense, but maybe that's okay, because what it does offer is something just as valuable. A vision of the future, past and present, evolving over time. And honestly, I can't wait to see what comes next. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, please go ahead and subscribe. That is the best way you can support us here at Theme Park Hunting. And as always, this is Hunter, and I will see you all later.